1970, we sure we did before fruit. Knowledge for selfish, for sure we did the work. Auditorium to basement of all faculty of law. We did represent, stand tall anywhere we go. We work hard and we shine, commitment, dedication. Neurosurgery, comedy, music, Nollywood. SOTK, Dr. Call, MC Casino. We did represent, stand tall anywhere we go. Great Uniben, great Uniben, great Uniben, great Uniben. Hello, viewers. Welcome to another episode of the Uniben Alumni series. As you know, this is a show where we publicize activities of the Alumni Association of the University of Benin. We celebrate alumni of the institution. And on today's episode, we have a former president of the National Association of Political Science and Public Administration Students, NAPS, Uniben chapter. He is a project and program manager right now. Is Mr. Joshua Dominic. Thank you, Joshua, for joining us today.
Thank you so much. The pleasure is mine.
Yeah, we have slated this for a very long time. Different issues coming up, technical, even those beyond our own control. But thankfully, we are here. Let's go straight into it, Joshua.
Correct. Let's do it.
You are from Akwa Ibom State. For those that know me quite well, that is my second state. I'm quite fond of that state. Beautiful place. I want to ask, what influenced your choice as an Akwa Ibomite to come to the University of Benin? Yes, this South institution. Akwa Ibom has a federal institution, if that was what influenced you, but I want to know what influenced your choice of University of Benin to study your Bachelor of Science degree in Political Science and Public Administration.
Okay, thank you very much. Very interesting question, and it's going to be very funny at the same time. Yes, that's the truth. After my secondary school, I had written JAM. I wrote the first JAM. I actually wanted to study law at the prestigious University of Benin. Sorry, University of Uyo. That's the University of Uyo, right? And so I wrote the first JAM and I excelled at it. But when I applied I wrote for the aptitude test. I didn't even get to see my aptitude test score at all. At some point, I learned that the exams are record, so to say, room caught fire. And so I couldn't get to see my aptitude test scores. And then I had to apply for it a second time. And so I wrote the second JAM. I excelled, aced it as well. Went in for the aptitude test, but the same thing like the first one happened. The result was withheld. And in that moment, I was like, you know what, Joshua, what is going on? Are you going to keep doing this thing, or are you going to look for? I mean, because both of them, the two times that I actually wrote for the aptitude test and the JAM were actually to study law. I was so much in love with law, and I mean, I just wanted to be the incorruptible judge because I had read a literature that talked about the incorruptible judge. But along the line, I started asking myself, is this how it's going to be? What else can it was on a Saturday. I will never forget it. I came back from children's meeting. I came back from church, and there was this protest that was actually going on in Nigeria at that time. I think it was about fuel subsidy or something, but it was happening in Lagos State. And the moment I sat in my mom's shop, apparently my mom used to sell at the University of Benin. So she ran just like Buka in the University of Benin, but she had something like that inside the University of Benin. So one would have thought that it would be easy for me to gain admission into the school, but the case was different. Apparently, because I knew almost everywhere in the University of Benin, knew everybody. I mean, but what really happened, I couldn't explain, and we couldn't explain as well. So that Saturday, while I was sitting down watching that particular protest, it was like placed their hands on my shoulders and just said, but you can do better than these people in politics. That was just it. And that was my journey into finding. So I started asking politics. Is there a course called politics? Long and short story, I went for a program, I think 2012 or 2013. I went for a program in Port Harcourt sponsored by NDDC, and I met a couple of which of the universities based on merit, because I have tried twice. University of Uyo, I didn't get it. I didn't want to go to University of Calabar because that was too close to home. My maternal home is in Cross River State. I didn't also want to go to University of Port Harcourt because I have a lot of my village people in Port Harcourt. So I didn't want my parents always telling me, go to your auntie's place or your uncle's place. I needed somewhere far that can give me something based on merit. And so there were two institutions that were mentioned, Obafemi Awolowo University and then University of Benin. But after doing a couple of search here and there, I just fell in love with the Uniben sculpture.
At the entrance, I
fell in love with it, and so that's how I ended up studying political science. That was just it.
No, that was quite interesting, and you went ahead to commence the political journey in school.
I know.
Yes. Let's talk about that. What gave you that courage, or what influenced those decisions? Yeah, you made mention that you could do better, but this time around, this is the school setting.
Sorry, I didn't get your question.
Okay. Yeah, I said, you mentioned that you going into to study political science was being influenced by someone that told you could do better, and you getting into the institution. You got admitted into the University of Benin to study political science and public administration. Did you at any point think that starting politics in school could distract you from achieving your academic success?
No, I didn't. At no point in time did I even consider that. It wasn't a subject of discussion.
So you were quite sure you be able to balance both sides?
Even before I got into University of Benin, I already knew I was going to contest elections. I knew right from 100 level. Apparently, because living and growing up in the University of Uyo, I had followed through series of ACG elections. In fact, as much as I can remember, the director of socials for some of those ACG elections were my very good friends, the ACG presidents. So when they are doing those elections like that, I followed through during the campaign. I had the one that I was going to contest an election, and whether it was going to distract me was not that wasn't on the table for discussion. I mean, I also heard of people who said, oh, they did this and then they still made a first class. Even though mine wasn't the case actually, but I didn't think it was going to distract me.
Okay, if we just suppose the experience you had, or if we say from the sideline at the University of Uyo, how politics is being played, student politics, and you come to the University of Benin, what you met on ground, what you participated in, are they the same? Were they the same in your own understanding?
So I'm going to put it this way: there were a couple of elements that reflected across board. I mean, University of Benin, alignment is supreme. You have to align, except if not, you're not. So the alignment was supreme. And just like we had in University of Benin, there were key faculties and departments that you definitely would want to align yourself with them if you ever want to win any election. It was the same way in the University of Uyo as well. There were faculties that were very renowned, and you definitely want to join yourself with them. That University of Uyo had more to do with there was a kind of money politics involved, not like directly handing over money, but they used to throw noodles. So when you're going for those campaigns at nights like that, when you get to the boys' hostel or the female hostel, the electoral candidate pull up the packs of noodles and be throwing it, packs of sweets through it, packs of tissue paper and all of those things. But I didn't see such things at the University of Benin. Though Uniben played it in a very different way, but I knew that those pockets of elements existed across the two institutions.
Okay. Let's talk about your experiences at the University of Benin outside politics. Obviously, it's not just politics and academics. So what was your experience like generally at the institution? And I don't know how many times you've been in Benin before you got admission. When you got in 100 level, what were the shockers for you when it comes to the environment, when it comes to relating with people? How was it like you? Generally.
All right, so I'd say first off, to be very frank, my first time entering in Benin was for my aptitude test. That was the very first time I got into Benin. The experience wasn't really the fact that growing up already prepared me for the next school environment. And so I already know, growing up in University of Uyo, we used to hear something like, he's a JJC, don't behave like a JJC. And so when I came into Uniben, instead of, there's a way you get into an environment and somebody looking at you will just know, this person does not know anywhere here. So I came in with that already. And so my experience in Benin Uniben was quite interesting. So one of the first things that I knew I did when I got into school was I told myself that I wanted to be a developed student who went through the university and the university went through him. So for me, the grade that I came out with was not a top priority, even though it was important. What was important for me was the experience, the life experience, the life lessons, the relationships, the connections that I am able to draw out of my 4 years of being in Benin City. So it was the reason why in 100 level, I was already thinking of contesting for the presidency. Right from 100 level, that was the position that I was looking out for, but I didn't get it either. I went for the Assistant Secretary General. From the Assistant Secretary General, I went for the presidency straight. From the presidency, I went for the Secretary General of Akwa Ibom State Student Association. From there, I went on to becoming Eleko Secretary, Political Science Association Nigeria in Abuja for at their national conference. From there, I went on to becoming a regional parliamentarian for Akwa Ibom State Student Worldwide. From there, because of that single decision that I had made, I joined the Uniben swimming team, at Sport Complex. I joined the Uniben athletics team, so I was able to represent Uniben at the 25th Nuga Games in Benue State, running 1,500 and then I think 5,000 meters were the two races that I ran for Uniben in Benue State. Because of that single decision, I was an integral member of post-science football team right from my 100 level. I played, and how I even joined the football team was very funny because they didn't want to include me in the team. They thought I don't know how to play, but they didn't know that I am a failed Project Mbappe. So that day we were actually playing the actual Uniben football team, and the person that was playing number 3 got injured. And so they said, Dominic, come and play now. Since you say you want to play, you know how to play. I entered and I showed them the stuff that I was made up of. And right from that day, I became an integral part of the football team till I left school. And outside of that, I was able to make some very solid relationships. living and experiencing a COSODIN taught me how to be security conscious, how to be vigilant. Because even though I had a caretaker who sat me down for more than 3 hours to give me deep orientation on how I should behave myself in a COSODIN, the things I should do, the things I shouldn't say, and all of those things. So till date, I still live with those experiences. Till date, I still go about environment, bringing back that experience of how I lived and worked in a COSODIN. I mean, if you're in University of Benin and you've experienced a COSODIN once or twice, in fact, my 100 level, there was a day we were going for a night class, and the guy that was beside me, they received the dirty slap that, right? And so stuff like that makes me very much aware of the environment that I am. And so I would say that the experience outside of politics was worth it. I won't trade it for anything. If I have an opportunity to go back to another university, federal university in Nigeria, I'll still choose University of Benin again and again. Yeah.
That's quite interesting, and you outlined a lot of leadership position you held while as a student, which I must say you had an all-round experience, Uniben experience, and all of these. I just want you to pencil it down to a single project or policy, while as either as secretary, assistant secretary of the department or president, or while you presented what we call Parakpo. Yes, your Akwa Ibom student. Which will you categorize as the most impactful project or activity when it comes to leadership? Which will you pick topmost?
So I will categorize my time with I'd categorize my time with as a president as the most important for me. Because for me, that period served as a litmus paper where I could use in test running what secular politics looks like. That was the ideal for me. I mean, I was in between two options. I had left discussing with my father that I would be contesting for the director of sports faculty of social science. But when I got into school, I had a conversation with a senior colleague, and he asked me a simple question and said, why are you contesting for presidency? Which of them, president and director of sport, who do you think is the highest and all of those things? And after that interaction, I decided to go for the presidency. And so if I'm to think, let me place it at two things to be the level of accountability that taught me, and the level of responsibility that taught me. It made me understand that if I have 10 people under me, I have to be sure that I am fully aware of what they do, because if they falter, I'll be held accountable for their actions. And so that also taught me that as a leader, my responsibility, let me phrase it this way, that taught me that as a of administration and delegation. So you have to be deliberate enough, you have to be careful enough to ensure that you know what everybody is doing and you can hold them accountable for their actions. Because I recall that there were occasions and there were times where things happened within the administration that were carried out by other people and making inquiries about those actions. I was there. You could say things that I was say, oh, he didn't know about this thing, but then I am the president. You're supposed to know about it. So the very first thing that being a president taught me was accountability. And I tried as much as I could to infuse that, or to bring everybody into that point where they are accountable. One of the key things that I think I also was able to achieve as a president was the fact that we were able to institute a transparent financial system during my tenure. And so I was the first person in the department that ensured that everybody coming to pay dues pays it at the bank and bring their bank teller to the department for an exchange of a receipt. That way I can be it never happened in the department. And though it was difficult for me to get to that point, but I knew that because I had a vision, or I had interest in secular politics, I had to start building the foundation. I had to start laying the foundation. I had to start building the character for that. So I'd class that as one of the most important things that happened, or stuff that I was back. And I saw that one of the signage, the boards that I did, that you supported us to do, but you supported us to do that particular project back then, is still in the department till today. We did that in 2016.
Almost 10 years ago. That's 9 years ago now.
When I walked in, I laughed and I'm like, well, just look at this. It looks simple project that we did then is still active till, is still upstanding till today, and coupled with other, I remember getting into the faculty administration, and I told all of my schools that one of the things I want everybody to do going forward is that from Monday to Thursday we will be dressing corporate, and then Friday you would come up with your native attire. It looks strange and everybody was like, we can't do that, but I was actually able to achieve that through my tenure as a president. So yeah, I'd class that as it.
Okay. I just want us to go back a bit. I think my previous question, you mentioned the role your caretaker at a custody, when it sat you down to give you the orientation, the custody orientation, on how to comport yourself in that area. And you said you mentioned that even till now it has made you very security conscious. What are the other things that you learned from the institution, that you learned from Uniben?
Well, so I'd say that I learned in a very funny and jovial way. If you like they usually say, if you know sabi wine person, that means you will be event student. But that on the lighter note, I learned negotiation, how to negotiate. I learned also make a case for myself anywhere I find myself. I learned leadership generally. I learned relationship building, because getting into politics and having to interact with the different set of stakeholders, the different set of individuals that I had to meet at different point in time in my career meant that, first off, I needed to understand how to engage these people. I needed to understand how to engage people. I also needed to understand how to make my case so that I come out of whatever situation I find myself, either with a win-win situation or a win-loss situation, right? And so going through that entire process in the University of Benin taught me negotiation first of it all. So anywhere I find myself today, I am able to take a stand and tell myself, this is actually what I want. And I can go into that negotiation for it. I jokingly usually tell people that I don't think there is any negotiation that I can go in for and I'll lose that particular negotiation. Not because I may not even be the best of it, right? But because I was in a system that had me doing that over and over again, because the practices that I got myself involved in while I was an undergraduate had become a part of me. So when situations like that present itself again, it is simple. It's just bringing out the things that, if you've been going for alignment meetings, it therefore means that you already have your interest already. You already know what you're going to make. So whatever the other camp are saying, is yours is to find a way to corner them to accepting this particular interest that you are presenting before them. And I mean, going into the marketplace, going in for business conversations, engaging vendors across my career, that is actually what you are presenting. You are taking the interest of the organization and telling the vendor or the client, this is how much we have to pay for this particular item, or this is how much the company is willing or can afford for this particular thing. And then you make your case on that. Outside of negotiation, I would say that Uniben actually taught me the importance of relationship building, because I already came in with a mindset that, oh, I want to be a developed student who has gone through the university and the university has gone through him. And so that meant that I needed to build relationships. And so I was able to do that to a very significant extent. I mean, a lot of experience here and there. I also was able to develop myself in the areas of joining different associations, different bodies that actually help me rediscover myself. So, for example, the Young African Leaders Initiative, Edo Hub, right? I was a part of it, and it was through the Young African Leaders Initiative that I was able to start my own personal foundation. Though I don't like telling people that I run a personal foundation, but it was through that process that I discovered that young people are at a crossroad, especially undergraduate are at a crossroad. So I started something that is called ASIP Undergraduate, where I basically help young people gain clarity of their life purpose, understand that they can leverage fellowship program, exchange programs to build local and global networks. Because through Yali, I was able to connect with people from other countries. Through Yali, I got into the Sustainable Development Schools network. Through Yali, through Yali, by virtue of being in Benin, in Uniben, relating with other people, they introduced me to some of the things that they do. And then I got involved in those associations and then understood myself more, rediscovered myself and understood that there are things that I can actually do and in a way give back to the society. Because I remember a couple of stories. I mean, my advocacy or my foray into advocacy and civil society began as, oh, we want to go and do a PVC campaign in one of the communities in Edo State. And I'm like, oh, I'm interested. I jumped on it, went on, did the PVC campaign. Oh, we want to go and do a documentary of a particular community. I jumped on it, came back. That's where the interest started. And in fact, that's where my journey into project management actually started. Because after that, someone reached out to me. Oh, we want to do the Not Too Young to Run movement in Edo State. We want you to be a part of it. And that's just how we took off from that. But if I was not able to build, or I did not understand the value of building relationship while as an undergraduate, I'm not really sure I would have been able to make it up to that point.
Okay. Let's talk about what you do now. Let's speak more on it. Yeah, you have been involved in several projects focused on STEM education for women and girls. What do you believe are the most significant challenges facing women and girls in STEM fields? And how can these challenges, how can they be addressed? You're in the field now. You have the expertise to educate us. So some of us, it is just the theory that we know. You go to these communities, you know there are peculiar challenges. You know what is peculiar to them in that community. But generally, especially in our communities in Nigeria, what are the challenges and how can they be addressed?
Thanks so much, Kevin. I will not go into semantics. And I mean, I was laughing because I remember the conversation around equality, women, and all of these things. I'm not going to go dabble into that semantics. I'll try as much as I can to highlight a couple of issues that I have personally seen in my journey as I try to practice some of the things. There's something that I call need-driven projects. Basically, it's a concept within the development space that says before you create any problem or any solution in a community, you have to understand the need of that particular community. And there is also a concept that we call the do no harm principle. In other words, do no harm simply means in your attempt to solving a particular problem in a community, do not create another problem. I know that the world is tilting towards STEM education right now, and there is a lot of advocacy for women to venture into or create opportunities for women to enter into the tech space or STEM education generally. I must be careful to establish, first of all, that women are not in STEM is not a function of lack of opportunities. No, I will debate it and I'll argue it anywhere. There are a lot of programs that are specifically dedicated for women. For example, the organization I worked with some years ago, we had a specific program that we dedicated for women and girls who are interested in getting involved or starting their careers in tech. What I would describe as one of the biggest challenge that women and girls face as far as STEM is concerned, it's just a function of the program design. And so there are unique, so for example, when I was creating my own program, I thought about the people who were going to participate in that particular program. So I was designing or creating from an audience perspective. How will the people who are going to take this course, what's the experience going to be like for them, right? So in understanding the kind of experience that you want them to get, you are now able to tailor program to suit into that. That's one. Two, some people, I don't want to call organizations, just wake up and try to say, oh, we are doing STEM education for a particular community.
Yeah.
But how do you create a tech program for a community that doesn't have lights? How do you create a tech program for a community that the literacy level is quite low? And so let me give context. So I served in Gombe State, and what I'm going to say is public knowledge. I think as at 2019 or 2021, the literacy level in Gombe State was below 5%. It had one of the lowest literacy level in the whole of Nigeria. And so it will be unfair or it will be inappropriate or unprofessional if I, having that data, now goes on to say, I want to do tech AI project in Gombe State. Right. So what's the first thing that I should create for such a particular environment is a literacy program that will help improve their literacy level first. Because when I now get them to a point where they have a basic understanding of what STEM is, then it will now spring up the interest in them to want to say, oh, okay, now that I understand tech or STEM, I want to start learning machine learning. I want to start learning AI. Not me sitting down and say, oh, okay, because tech AI is booming in Lagos, in Abuja, and Port Harcourt, I want to go and do it in Gombe State, or I want to take it to Zamfara State without first looking at what the data says. I mean, there's a president, one of the presidents in the United States of America that said, in God we trust, every other person should bring data. So if we are able to look at the data of the different places, and this is a big challenge for organizations that are executing programs in communities. So if you now say you want to do a STEM program for women and girls, and the women that you are about doing this thing for don't have the basic understanding, first of all, that program becomes a flop. And so at the end of the day, you come up saying that women don't like doing this thing. But the question is not that they don't have interest in this thing. The question is that you created, it's like putting a square peg in a round hole. You have not first understood what is the challenges of women in that particular community that you want to serve. Right? When you understand the program, the challenge in that particular community that women are facing in that particular community, it is now then that you'll be able to say, okay, they don't need STEM project right now. they need literacy project, or they don't need literacy project right now. They need maybe educational project, or they need as simple as hygiene project, or they need is as simple as wash related project, right? So it is that this is the mindset that I approach project on. And if I'm to add one more thing that I would say or I would consider as a challenge around STEM, it's a very difficult area to venture into, I would say. And it needs dedication. It needs genuine interest. It's still going to fall back to the things that I have said earlier. But I'm going to connect it this way. It needs interest, genuine interest. It needs dedication to go through it, because learning data science is difficult. Learning tech is difficult. Learning AI, just like learning every other thing, is difficult. Now look at it. You want to go and do STEM education or STEM project in a community. These people will need laptop. How do you expect someone who doesn't understand how to operate the basic Microsoft softwares or applications on a system to actually learn STEM? I think where you should start from is teaching them the basics of computer usage first. I mean, let them first of all know how to use a computer, how a computer boot. Let them first of all know how to use Microsoft Word. Let them first of all know how to use an Excel. Let them first of all know how to use a PowerPoint. Once they are familiar with this interface, you can now start introducing other things into that. If you don't get to do that, and then you dump them with data science or data analysis, which has to do with Excel, and they don't even have the basics of that first, it's going to cause them, they're going to be discouraged, and along the line, they lose the interest, and the project flops at the end of it. So these are a combination of things, and there are a couple of other factors here and there. Economic factor is there, health factor is there, and it's just a bunch of other things that external factors that we as organizations or program managers cannot really or entirely control.
Okay, well, that's quite comprehensive. Thank you very much, Mr. Joshua Dominic. It has been wonderful speaking with you. Good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I've been speaking with Mr. Joshua Dominic, a project and program manager. Continue to subscribe to our channel. We'll bring you more exclusive interviews of Uniben alumni. Bye for now.
1972, we sure we did the forefront. Knowledge for self-peace, for sure we did the work. Auditorium to basement of all faculty of law.